Ross Coulthart says that UFO disclosure is coming within 12 to 18 months. What? That's insane. Okay, we've got to talk about this bombshell interview with Ross Coulthart that just dropped. So let's talk about it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, please share on social media, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. See the first link in the description below. Okay, let's just get right to it. Is there really going to be a UFO disclosure in 12 to 18 months? Well, let's see exactly what Ross had to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I'm talking to you, Neil, I'm conscious of the fact that this all sounds crazy. It really does. I mean, it sounds daffy, and I've taken quite a lot of hits from my journalistic colleagues who love taking the mickey with me and saying, oh, you know, Ross Coulthart's gone UFO crazy. But if they were talking to the sources that I've been privileged to speak to, people at a very high level in US defence and intelligence, people in the French government, the British government, the Russian government, across the world, there are people who are in a position to assert that they know that the human race is aware of a non-human intelligence. And I think that the world will probably know publicly within, I suspect, 12 to 18 months.
I would love to know what he means by that. He also had this to say.
At the moment, Washington is bitterly factionalized. There is a pro-disclosure movement who are in the defence community who think that the public should know, and there are a lot of very senior people, generals, admirals, people who think that it's time the public was told the truth. I've spoken to one or two of these very senior people. On the other side, there are the anti-transparency, and I would say at the moment they're in the majority. I think there's a fear of a war with China on the horizon. And I think there's an argument being made by the Pentagon to the Congress that we cannot afford this incredible distraction right now. And moreover, if there is weaponry that is being developed from these technologies, from these recovered craft, if these craft exist, why do we want to disclose that to our foreign adversaries? And so what I think we might see in the best case scenario is an acknowledgement within the next 12 to 18 months of a non-human intelligence that has been engaging with this planet. And I know that there are moves afoot to get interviews with senior officials who may very well admit and say that very thing. But I think there's also a pushback, and I think a large part of the problem at the moment is the weakness of Joe Biden. There is a question at the moment about his continuing capacity to operate as the president. And I think also there's uncertainty, frankly, in the Pentagon about somebody like Donald Trump, if he ends up being president, being trusted with the extent of this information. I think a lot of people feel it's too dangerous a time to be too candid. So I wouldn't be surprised, though, if what we saw was a compromise where there was the beginning of an admission that, oh gosh, yes, we think there may indeed be life behind this, some kind of intelligence, but we need to do more work. I think we might see that kind of qualified revelation, but it's still a remote possibility. It's equally possible that this all might be put back in a box and covered up for another.
There you go. So Ross is saying we might get UFO disclosure in the next 12 to 18 months, or it might be put back in a box. So not a firm answer, but he definitely is leaving some hope out there, some significant hope that we are actually going to get some form of UFO disclosure within the next 12 to 18 months. He goes into some of the political stuff. Biden being weak and maybe Trump being too candid, and that may be an argument against him among certain circles. But I mean, if that's an argument against him, I'll take it. Be candid, guys. But let's not get political. But candid is good. On the other hand, you do seem to have Joe Biden backing the Schumer-Rounds amendment. I don't think that Schumer would have come out with this amendment if the White House had not been backing that. And of course, there are other rumors to suggest well, not just rumors, but actually information from the Brigadier General from Israel, Haim Eshed, that Trump had already been told about this stuff. And even as far as, the Galactic Federation and all that kind of stuff. And he had wanted to go public, but had been persuaded not to. Now, I don't know if that's true. Haim Eshed is a highly credible individual. One of the founders of the Israeli space program, and like I say, a brigadier general, very, very, very solid guy. For him to say that is, that's significant. That's significant. So does Trump know? What does Biden know? Something changed for Biden, I think, with Balloongate. That's when they started the inter-office UFO agency within the executive branch, which is really weird because Arrow had just been created, and on the heels of, or even in the throes of, Balloongate, the White House comes out with this inter-office agency. And that seems to have played a part in developing the Schumer-Rounds Amendment. And I made a whole video on that. You can check that out at your leisure. But I don't care which political camp provides disclosure as long as disclosure is provided. Ross also has a really interesting thing to say about alien abductions.
Ross Coulthart, you've indicated in what we've discussed that you've conducted these interviews, and you can't tell us everything that you know. Are there things you know which you can't divulge which frighten you?
Yes, there are. Yeah, there are. I can talk to some degree about it. I mean, one of the sources that I spoke to told me that, actually multiple sources have told me that we should be taking the abduction phenomenon more seriously than we have done to date.
What's that? What's the abduction phenomenon?
Well, we know what the abduction phenomenon is, but yes, of course they should be taking the abduction phenomenon more seriously. It may be why many, if not most, of the UFOs are here. The abduction phenomenon is widespread. Our best information about the numbers comes from the Roper poll done in the 90s by John Mack, Bud Hopkins, and David Jacobs. And that Roper poll suggested, with additional information that David Jacobs provided later, that somewhere between 2 and 5% of the world populace are abductees of the beings. And most of these abductees are lifelong abductees. And we don't know exactly what the beings are doing. We know some of what the beings are doing. Hybridization, training, consciousness experiments or procedures. But it is obviously a huge part of why they're here. It's a massive, massive program, potentially with hundreds of millions of people being taken. And if that is true, if that Roper poll is accurate and correct, and again, it's our best information. That's not to say that it's the final word on all of this, but it is our best information to date. But if that is true, then that is, of course, extremely shocking, not just in terms of numbers, but they could do this and get away with it largely unnoticed. I mean, people have their minds wiped. People don't see them coming and going. It's just amazing that they have been able to perpetrate this while never getting caught, or at least very rarely. Obviously, many people do become aware they are abducted, and there are telltale signatures, marks on the body, implants, etc. But this phenomenon is still considered a laughingstock among many people and is not taken seriously. And then you have people like Stephen Greer spreading disinformation about it, saying there are no alien abductions, that it's all the military. I'm sorry, Stephen, but that's a lie, and the military would be incapable of doing something so vast globally. Again, hundreds of millions of people potentially that are abducted throughout their lives, many of them many times a year, with very little evidence that this was ever done. Some people think the abduction phenomenon is a good thing, that they are upgrading humanity through this process. Some think it's a very negative thing, that they are using this to seed hybrids among us. And that's very alarming. That's David Jacobs' take. And he has some really good information. And I encourage you to read his books because it's full of really interesting information, accounts from experiencers themselves. But there are other experiencers who report more positive interactions. In any case, it's something we should take very seriously. And we should listen to the participants and the experiencers and not ignore them or belittle them like Stephen Greer does. Stephen Greer ignores any negative alien contact. Not only ignores it, but says it didn't happen and it's never happened and the beings have never done anything wrong. He does leave room for other dimensional beings to have done something wrong, however, and I think that's an interesting and significant wrinkle in nuance in what he has said, because as I have reported on many times, from our best evidence, it seems like many of these beings, if not most, are in fact other dimensional. So, it is what it is. Anyway, I didn't want this to become a rant on Stephen Greer, but Ross Coulthart is saying that there is going to be potentially some form of UFO disclosure within 12 to 18 months, and that we need to start taking alien abductions more seriously. That is amazing information, Ross. I hope he's on the money about UFO disclosure. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. See the first link in the description below. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.